Welcome to Puck Talk CS. I'm your host, Matthew Mugno, alongside Steve Murno. We're here to talk about the New York Rangers against the Calgary Flames contest that happened last night by the time you're listening, 2 nights ago. And we're also here to talk about some things long term. Obviously, the New York Rangers have found themselves in the conversation for the worst in the hockey universe, Steve-O. So super pumped to rip things open and tear into this like the opposite of Christmas.
Yeah, ooh, I love Christmas too. You couldn't have cooked that up better. So let's talk puck. We got to jump in right off the bat. For me, it's getting very late early on Broadway with what I've been seeing so far. So unfiltered, I'll flip it over to you. Like this game, like what is going through your head before I start rambling?
Yeah, I think what the trouble for me is that the team lacks speed. The team's blueprint lacks speed, and I think the problem overall is that the team, the first 6 games, winning, losing, they were playing good defense. The trouble with this contest is that they completely went off the rails on defense and left Igor out to dry. The Sharks game, I think you could swallow because you scored 5 goals and you lost. Again, not ideal on home ice. They have that home ice losing streak. But that's what I take away is just if they don't play perfect defense in this system set up by head coach Mike Sullivan, they just don't have the skating. They don't have the speed. And I think Peter Laviolette did actually engineer a really good system where the puck moved faster than man, and that's how they beat Carolina. But it remains to be seen now, game 10 of the season. Steve, flipping it to you. Obviously, there were some ugly moments too. The Brennan Hoffman shot, miss, pass, and then it comes down the other way and no one's back checking the 2-on-0. Overall, two very ugly games back to back. So,
Yeah, I think this is rock bottom right now of the season. You thought the other night.
you don't think it can get any worse than this?
I don't think. Well, of course it gets worse by not getting better, but I think
Yeah,
this is
that's
rock
a good
bottom
point.
right. It's
Like,
true.
this is the worst it can get. It
Listen,
could be longer than this. It could go on longer, but I think that's a good point.
if it is, then it's just a long bust down at rock bottom if it continues like this. And we keep sitting here and saying every single week, I keep saying it, that it's going to get better. But I haven't seen one single ounce on anything in this hockey team that has showed me that it's going to get better or it's going to be a fluke. Minus the two good games we had this year against the Sabres and the Penguins, we think you can make the debate sure against the game against Toronto that we lost in overtime. We were able to take it over the point. But I mean, you look at it the other night and you say, you know what? You played the San Jose Sharks. They were previously a winless team. We played Swiss cheese defense. Our supposedly best goalie in the league got a mid performance from him. You scored 5 goals and you still lost in overtime. That kind of hit. That was kind of a low in a sense. But then
Hmm.
you take this team and a 5-1 loss to Calgary. That is rock bottom. You cannot let a team that has scored 15 goals in the whole season, heading into yesterday, and come in and they score 5 on you. And when we have arguably the best goalie in the league, and I think this is just unacceptable on all letters. I mean, you look at the Sharks, winless. Calgary coming into this game. I mean, they were at the bottom of the standings in the league. They only had 3 points. They had 15 goals in the entire year, and they had an 8-game winless streak. What were they? 0-7-1. I mean, that is just, you cannot allow that. Flames came out and they came out with fire, scoring within the first 2 minutes. I mentioned this on the last week's episode. You could go back and listen to that because a lot of the same concepts apply. I don't want to sit here and sound like a broken record, but I mean,
Right.
why the hell do we start hockey games so freaking poorly? Last year, it's the same shit as last year. Last year was we started periods terrible, we ended periods terrible. This year, it's the same thing. Look at Kadri scoring 2 minutes in just 2 minutes into the game on Shesterkin. And I just think we are coming out of the gate so flat. We're coming out literally in two senses where we're starting games bad and we're also coming out to start the season. We look so flat, and I'm so sick. Dustin Wolf, another not good goalie, outplaying Igor
Oh,
Shesterkin
that's a hot take, man. That's a
handedly,
hot take.
handedly. And I think it's
That's
not.
a hot
Listen,
take, though.
I'm not blaming Igor. It's not Igor. It's the defense. 100%.
No, I'm saying I think Dustin Wolf was a Calder finalist last year.
He was, but he's no Igor.
Okay. Um, I'll say this. I actually want to give you a lot of props. My man Steve-O, so volatile with the takes. I'll give you this. The You mentioned slow starts on our season opener. So I think that's a theme that's now being kind of more addressed or brought to the forefront in the media today. Um, and I want to give you credit on that, Steve, because you've been talking about the slow starts for a while. I think before actually anyone I'd heard talk about it on any podcast, any journalist. So kudos to you, man. Yeah, I think, listen, JT Miller said that in the post game, right? But at the same time, that feels like I see it as twofold. I think JT Miller's approach is awesome. I think his leadership is great. The team didn't have this last year, but it feels like lip service because we haven't seen action from that. Like after the Sharks game, after the Caps game, we thought maybe it would turn around and it hasn't. After the Minnesota Wild game, right? We posted on our feed the Mika interview, and it's like it's great that they're showing passion now, but that still has to turn to action. This is a results league. It's the National Hockey League. Um, Something I want to mention, Steve, is that I think a lot of the conversations that have come up from this are very flip flop, flip of the coin, if you will. Development. Okay. There are players this team has developed. There are players that it certainly has not. And that list seems to be longer. First rounders. I'm seeing the conversation of trade talks already. Keandre Miller was traded for a first rounder. I thought he was a pretty good player. Was he a great player? No. But is your 20th overall pick next draft going to be better than Keandre Miller was? Better than Kako? Better than Lafreniere? Better than Hedel? Better than Nils Lundqvist, right? Is that development? Is that the player? Is that where they were selected in a draft? Scoring. They had their chances. They had 10 high danger chances yesterday. They completely folded off the rush. Their speed wasn't there. The defense looked like it had zero structure. Very fundamental issues, as Dave Maloney said, but they had their scoring chances. They just didn't score. So you view that as a flip of the coin. Is it that, oh, they have their chances and they're not scoring, or this team lacks scoring talent 10 games in? Team defense, 6 good games of team defense in succession, 4 really bad games of team defense in a row. So which is it? And contracts term the no trade, no moves. Every team has these. Um, the Florida Panthers have players locked in beyond the age of 30. So I think the conversation that definitely is I don't love is like pointing out that the Rangers have players that are under contract. Like, no, duh, every team does. Now, granted, are they performing? No. Is that concerning? No. JT Miller, I just talked about his leadership. Filipino's already injured this season. So, like, if he was still in your lineup, is he doing any better than JT? Probably not. I think a lot of those uh, pieces to blame, which makes sense, I think there's a lot. It definitely splits the aisle for the fandom, and I do understand that. I think you're getting what I'm picking up, what I'm putting down. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, bro. I think it's just to go back to your point and I'm gonna touch upon your point in a second because that's like a bigger arching point. I think my final point with this game was, and they better put this game fast behind them. Coming we sat here on the last week's episode and we said this is the easiest game on coming up on the road trip. I mean, it's
Yeah.
only going to get way harder from here. I mean, you just came out and you played two winless teams and you fell straight flat. into your face, and it's not looking good. And I think even Shesterkin, who wasn't playing at his usual level last night, for the second straight game. I mean, even if you take the Vesna Trophy caliber Igor from a few seasons ago, I don't think it makes any difference last night. I mean, the defense is too leaky. I'm seeing the same seeps that I'm seeing last year. I mean, the holes are just there, and this is a major, major problem with this team. Another thing, it's evidently clear. I was thinking this last night watching the game. We miss Vinny T. I think it's very clear. You take a look at our big guns. You take a look at Panarin. You take a look at Mika. They're just not doing the job offensively. It's so dry. Lafreniere. Go back to last week's episode. I don't want to sit here and keep rehashing the same shit, but he only has one goal. What does he got?
He is always the lightning rod in these situations too, right?
What has
Like
he got? 2, 3 points this year?
I think 3, right?
Yeah.
He had the 2 goals, the 1 assist, or no, the 1 goal. The second assist came against on the power play against San Jose.
Yeah. And throw in there that we're still 0-4 at MSG, including the overtime loss. I mean, was that the worst five game start at home in 80 plus years? I mean, again, we're trending in the same
1943.
direction. You were always money
Yeah.
with those dates.
Listen, we could shovel that up though. But I like what you mentioned too about primary scoring is like Panarin, Zibanejad, Miller, we're at the 10 game mark now. You're 1/8 into the season. A few episodes back, I tend to be more of an optimist and I think realist too, but I was looking and saying like, okay, it's still a little early. But like you said, Yogi, at this point, when does it get to 20 games that this continues?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And again, for me, like I said, we're trending in that direction. There hasn't been. What is one thing that this team? I know me and you have been the biggest proponent of this, like of this mind phrase. It's early. It's okay. I'm switching. It is not okay after watching this crap. What is one
Go for
element
it.
of this team? First of all, like I'm being so negative. To be positive, I love the glasses, man. I mean, we got Tony
Yeah,
Stark
I
on.
know. You said Tony Stark vibe earlier. They're for the migraines, man. I know. The red light, I got to do anything I can. By the way, and also last epi, we've really been on fire, man. You now got the collared shirt. You had the sharp on last epi. Like, I think we got to start making this a trend.
For sure. Um, but what is one thing that this team has shown you in the last few games that you say, you know what, we're fine? And that's like a general question. That's a question for you. That's a question for the entire New
For the
York Rangers
listeners.
fan base, the listeners.
Yeah.
Sit there and answer and try and give me a good answer, because honestly, I have seen nothing from this team that makes me to say, you know what, it's early, we're okay. I haven't seen anything.
I would say goaltending. I would say Noah Laba. Um, I'll say the first 6 games of team defense were promising. They just have to play 90%, 50 minutes of really good defensive hockey if they want to win a game. So I'll say there are very, very distant, spots of light at the end of the tunnel. But
And that is
um,
way easier said than done, though. Look at last year.
that's true.
Like,
I think the con- I think the concern is like this. That's what we're coming off of. It's not like that was 5 years ago.
I know, and
All right, Steve. Actually, I don't know what else you wanted to bring up. I want to hit you with some hard hitters.
bring the questions. The only thing I was gonna say is we played the two worst teams in the league so far, and still lost. So again, is it gonna get better because we're playing somebody that's worse? Well, there isn't anybody that's worse. So, but go ahead. Let's do.
It's
Let's
not like the Giants schedule. It's not like the Giants schedule, right? Where it's like every week is like a juggernaut opponent.
Yeah, you can make the case that the Giants just got that aura. I mean, the Rangers right now got nothing, bro. Come on.
Back start. All right. Is this team a playoff team to you?
Right now, no. And my
Fair.
prediction, I'm still going to stand by this prediction. I still think this can be a playoff team, but what I've seen right now, no. It's just there's nothing offensively. I mean, this is just dry as hell. I mean, offensively, there's nothing, and defensively, there's just it's like peanut butter and jelly. When you get no offense, you get no defense, and that's where we're just seeing all of that together right now. So, honestly, right now we're not looking like one, but I still stand by my prediction.
It's
I
like
don't
Victy Potato. When you get in the bats, you're not getting the pitching.
exactly.
Okay. All right. So no, you say not right now.
What do
Is
you
this
say? What do you
team?
say?
What do I say? No, not right now. I think their ceiling's a wild card right now.
I agree.
All right. Actually, I still think they're like ultra potentials the third in the Metro. Okay. Is this team a retool, a reload, or a rebuild candidate in your eyes?
Honestly, bro, like from what I've seen, like we are trending towards rebuild. I mean, that's what we're trending towards.
Rebuild above reload and retool.
Yeah, but what we've done the whole retool. I just who else are you adding that is gonna come in and change things around? It's a system problem, and we've sat here and discussed it the last year. I mean, the way that it's panning out, I see it. If this play continues, is we're going towards a rebuild, rebuild. Blah. I don't want it, but
All right. Is Drury fired by April?
no, no,
No.
no. I don't think so. No. Again,
Why?
what has he done this year to prove to you that I'm like, he's got to go? Because again, this whole conversation on expectation, I think the expectation has changed vastly after last year, and I think he's made some good pivots. He's made a lot of good moves. I thought Will Borgen was great. Getting a lot of draft capital was great. Chris Kreider, man, oh my god, I was talking about him the other day. Quick pivot to him. I mean, look what he's doing over in Anaheim. That's crazy. Any quick thoughts on that, real quick?
Yeah, my quick thoughts are he wasn't going to do that in New York. I think we talked about it a few episodes ago. Um, I just think it's like that's like the perfect situation for him because he got out of New York. He didn't want to be, I don't think he wanted to be in New York. And he went to a new place where it was loose and fun and they didn't really have like a monstrous expectation as a club and as the current team, the way it's built now. So I don't think he would have been doing that in New York regardless.
I agree, bro. He'd have 0 goals if he was on this team.
All right, so you think Drury survives the season?
I think he does. Why? You? Yes or no?
I I see a lot of the moves he made in the context that he made them. Um, and I understand again, we talk results league, but I do think the Borgen move was great. Um, I thought the JT Miller trade great. Like Filipino is like really an injury away now. It's very sad to talk about, but as a person, as a player for his career, but you turn that into a 1C. Now, has JT been spectacular? I don't think so, but um, I think a lot of these moves have benefited the Rangers, keeping this year's first rounder versus last year's first rounder. I think where there is some belief that this certainly falls on Chris Drury is that this roster lacks speed, the construction, what is its identity? You're on your fourth coach now under his regime. Like, what's the direction here? So I do see where that is an issue. Um, so also you think some of his draft picks haven't really panned. I think some of his deeper draft picks have been great. Del Perot was a slide candidate that he picked up, and that was a good move. Um, but overall, like Brennan Othman has been in 5 camps. Is where does the development pattern start? Does it start from the general manager and where those decisions are being made? So I personally think some of the moves Drury has made has helped the team, or at least, like you said, perfect word, pivot. But I don't know if overall at this point you can accept 2 years no playoffs and a like a lackluster identity overall.
I 100% agree with you, my guy. And the reason why I said rebuild is because you talk about changing the identity. To me, the only way you could change the identity is to absolutely scrape everything you have and start from scratch and rebuild it. And it's sad. We don't want to see it. We don't want to spend the next 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 years of just crap. Like, we don't want that. We're ready.
Yeah, you know what, Steve? Here's where my argument is. There have only been, and I would argue, maybe 2 or 3 hockey teams that rebuilt. The Chicago Cubs, I think, are an example of baseball. NFL is different the way it operates, and the NBA, the free agency changes everything. It's very different. I think the easiest comparisons, Major League Baseball in some ways, because of how the systems work with drafting and things of that nature. I think that a rebuild to the studs will not work. The Rangers tried this. And I think a lot of fans blame that Gorton then signed Panarin and Trouba. But I think if those players wanted to fall into the team's lap, especially Panarin, you were going to sign that deal. You weren't going to deny that for more draft picks. Um, I think that this team still has players that can service the team in a championship window at some point. Um, I don't think that trading solely for draft capital is going to do this club service at this point. I think they tried that. I think they advanced their rebuild as they should have. They landed the second and first overall picks at that time. Again, context is everything. They had 3 first rounders in 2018. They just all didn't really pan out, or 2 didn't, 1 almost did, to the potential that they thought, and then money became an issue. So I think overall, like Adam Fox and Igor Shesterkin, those are players that I think are you can't move. Now, granted, we always say not no player is immovable, but I do think that tearing it down to the studs means to me, you would consider trading Adam Fox. And a lot of times those moves are made for futures. And how do we know that the future is going to be better than some of the assets the team has now? You know what I mean?
I 100% agree with you. Like, it's just your words to my ears, brother. I got some rapid fire for you. You ready?
I got one more
Oh, one
actually
more.
for
All right,
you.
throw it.
Okay. Is this on the coaching, the players, or the team construction?
It's on the team construction.
Okay.
And then if I had to give you a uh, second tiered answer, I'd give you construction number one. I'd give it players number two. I said the coaching number three. I don't think any of this is on the coaching. I think the coaching is so well established and it has proved itself that I don't think it is the coaching. But again, to throw shade at the players and the roster management. This is my favorite point, brother. I love this
I love
point.
that you're prefacing to throw shade.
My point and my stance on this. Our players are so damn hard to play with. I mean, Panarin and Mika are so freaking stubborn to play with. Like, that's on the players themselves, and that's on the roster construction. And it is how many we can sit here and go. I could give you 20 different names of players in the last 4 years that we brought in that played on the first line that we try to pair with Panarin and Mika, and Kreider. And these players are so damn stubborn. So I have to go with the roster construction. To me, roster construction and the players, they're kind of the same thing. If you want
Okay.
to have, when you say roster construction, you put like more the shade on Drury. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
I think I mean by that like how it was built. Because like the players didn't just like get together and decide, obviously, like beer league. So, I mean, and he had to make a lot of decisions. So I'm not, obviously that's the man's job. But overall, I think I'm saying, yeah, like roster construction, like how did Chris Drury assemble a team?
Yeah, I agree. What do you say?
I go back and forth between like, first of all, I think you hit it peg on 100%. I think it is roster construction one, but it's not the players trail right there. Like I'm a believer that when someone shows you their true colors, you believe them. And unfortunately, I think a lot of these players have already told us who they are. So I don't think the players' accountability in all this is far behind the roster construction, which I also don't. I also see the other side of that. I think, I'm not, I'm not carrying a torch up Broadway for Chris Drew's head solely because I also think that the team needed to be rebuilt on the fly last year. And I really don't know what fans' expectations were of that. Like they wanted these players to be traded. Or there are fans, and I'm also open to hearing these opinions. Like I'm very open to the whole conversation. But I do question where fans are coming from when they wanted players to be traded, and that was Kreider and that was Kako. And I think what happened was it fractured a lot of the fan base into all these subsections of like where the blame game was because it wasn't like one scapegoat. So unfortunately, I think when it comes to roster construction, it was kind of built on the fly. And I think we all had a little more hope this year, especially coming in, giving the summer a rest. But overall, as you said, Steve, those top players, like at this point, it's year 7 of Panarin. We know what he's giving us, and we know what he's not. We know the flaws in his game on the ice, and we know his strengths, right? And they haven't played to their strengths. So I don't think it's coaching. Don't think it's the system. And I think, yeah, those two things certainly are the one and the two.
All right. I'm going to give you a bunch of rapid fire now.
Hit me.
I want you to say, just give answers for these. And then once we're done, we could go back and address them. So,
Gotcha.
Who's been more of a problem right now, Miko or Panarin?
Panarin.
Brendan Othman, do we still have hope for that expectation or no?
No.
What's been more of a problem, the defense or the offense this year?
Offense.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how cooked are we right now? 10 means we're done.
I made my family burgers tonight. So honestly, I'll be honest, they weren't very moist. So I'm gonna go with how well I cook those up. I'm gonna say the Rangers are at like an alarming 8 right now.
Woo. I gotta agree with you.
Again, I mean, we're just making subjectivity off the cuff here, but I think in terms of like it's like a 7. Now, I got a hot take though.
Okay, go ahead.
3, 5, and 2 is not the worst start you can have.
I agree with you.
You got 2 points on overtime losses, and you have 3 wins.
I agree with you. For me, it's more of the what's behind the record and what I'm watching.
On the wall.
And
Yep.
I'm not seeing a lot of that. But
That's how we felt last year at 12-4-1.
Yeah. Oh my God, 12-4-1. Jesus.
Crazy.
What the? Woof. I don't think
You want me to explain any of those?
Yeah, I was going to say, out of all of those, we could go one by one, or you could pick whichever one you want.
Whichever ones you want to hear from, man.
Okay, I want to hear about. Let's talk about Brendan Othman, and let's talk about the defense and the offense.
Gotcha.
Offense is more of a problem. So
yeah, definitely.
I'm curious to see your thought on that. So you could start talking about whichever one you want.
Yeah, I think it's the offense because they clearly haven't given Igor Shesterkin the run support. So no matter which way you cut it up, 6 games where they weren't scoring, and then against San Jose they scored, and then against Calgary they didn't. Like there are hockey games, especially early in the season, that teams are playing loose. It's kind of run and gun, and we saw that against San Jose. I didn't think, like you said, Igor had his best game there. He gave up a lot of like middle danger chances. But the game against Calgary, like 1 goal, after all that. I mean, we didn't even get garbage time touchdowns here. So, yeah, definitely the scoring.
Yeah, I agree.
I was impressed with the defense the first few games. I know they were getting shut out, but they were playing good D.
I agree with you 100%. It's been the offense. They have to come out and perform. I mean, you can't come out there and expect to win, 1-0 game. You can't win a game if you don't score, especially at home, And now that
Game of hockey, baby.
now we're going on the road and we're not winning. We're not playing good teams and we're not winning. We're getting manhandled by bad teams early in the season.
Yeah,
It's just, I don't know. It's not a recipe for success in my book. Um, Brendan Othman, this is an interesting one.
yeah.
Quickly, you said no. Um, want to elaborate on that because
I
this
took a
is,
moment to think about it.
yeah, think about it. I think
Come on,
this,
that brain. You know my brain before I speaky. Yeah, no, Brendan Othman, I had the chance actually to interview. It was like one day, I'm going on my war stories with the hockey news again. At the facility, it was just Johnny and I, and we got to interview a few players, and it was just the two of us and the players. So like we got to really ask them a lot. I wrote a bunch of stories when he had his first stint, the 3 games in 23, 24. And then right after that, we had Steve Ellis on. Like all I was talking about was this guy and focusing in on Brendan Hoffman. Um, this is a player that was part of those junior Canadian teams. He's a top 20 draft pick. He was lauded for his shooting ability and his physicality and that mix. And at this point, unfortunately, after all the other prospects we've seen come and go in this organization, you just see a player like Noah Labba seize his opportunity. And I just think how many times has Othman had the chance to seize it? And I think what made matters worse was that that one play was so magnified. Like it wasn't a subtle play. And then his lack of recognition to get back on the back check, like it just was a mess. So listen, I'm a firm believer. Like, probably seemed like a good guy when we talked to him, but when we're talking about strictly hockey and business, I just, unfortunately, we were so hyped the other day when we brought it up at the end of the episode. But I'm going to say, this is the end of the rope, I think, because but then again, I think they're stuck in a spot because now he's going to have to be in the lineup. They could bring in Berard, they could fly in Gabe Perreault, but they also have to be careful with that. What positions in the lineup are those guys playing? I think Berard could, but Perreault, I don't think they should touch yet. Why are you going to bring him into this situation? So, um, yeah, it's really dicey, but who knows? Maybe Brendan Othman goes on a heater and proves us all wrong.
I hope so, but you know, out of all the questions I asked you for me, that one is the hardest question. Um,
Mm.
I just I don't know, man. I just think when you look back at the end of last year, he had so many opportunities to find the back of the net and could not struck out on all of them. And when you just look at it, it's just it's also in partly due to just it's not even an expectation. It's just the fact that we can't develop anybody, man. I don't know what it is with that high of an expectation. It could just be New York and the lights, and very, 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 very few people could come in and live up to that expectation. It
You
could be.
always, I always give you props because I also think that's a factor that isn't talked about enough.
Yeah, and it's we are such a vicious fan base combined with such hostile media. You're going to Minnesota, looking at the Wild. They don't got media like we have it here in New York. So it could be that, and a lot of players, it throws them off mentally, and they're not mentally tough to be in this position in order to perform, and a lot of guys just haven't been able to do that, and I think a lot of the reasons, you look at at Lab and you look at Cooley and a lot of guys that had lower expectations were able to step up and they were able to perform and the expectation because it wasn't there. And it's just so hard in New York to do it. Very few have done it. You take a look at the Yankees, you look at Anthony Volpe, expectations in New York. I could sit here and go through all the teams. They're just such a hard thing to live up to. And I think New York Rangers hockey is has to be number one in this town. So that's my take on it. And you hope you sit there and you say, you hope for the future. It's tough, but I gotta agree with you. I gotta say no, man. Like everything I've seen, I just like next year he's gonna flip the switch and score 30 goals. I haven't seen it, man. It's
Will
tough.
Cooley's Will Cooley's also built up some grace. I think for the fact that he was such a bright spot last year, he's had a sophomore slump too.
Yeah, I know. In last week's episode, I said I'd give Will Cooley a little bit of a pass. If this play continues, that pass is gonna get cut real short. But I expect Will Cooley to play better as the season progresses. I expect this team to play better. Moving forward, you take a look at who's coming up.
JT Miller revenge game for the Frozen Frenzy.
I actually have a good feeling about that game, but I said I had a good feeling about the Calgary games. We're playing the Canucks, we're playing the Oilers, we're playing the Kraken. This begins a 3-game in 5 days. Yes, 3 games in 5 days. That's a big stretch, and I really don't think we can afford to have, the bottom drop any lower than it already has, and like I said, it is getting very late for us very early. So I think I was gonna ask you a question, but I think we already beat the bush on that. These are big games. We have to come out and start. Take it to overtime. Take it to
Hey,
overtime.
remember, Steve, remember the last 21-22, the Rangers were on that win streak. They went into Canada, and JT Miller scored the game tying goal and an overtime goal to defeat the Rangers. I think it was December 21.
Yep, it's just so important that we take. I mean, we got to win. I think 2 out of 3. To be honest with you, I
That's
think
a big ask.
you could take the Canucks. And listen, Kraken, we established this last week. They ain't gonna be a walk in the park. They're playing very good hockey. And when we come out and we play 2 teams that have been 0-7 and 0-6 and lose to both, what are you gonna do against teams that are playing very good hockey? But maybe
Holy smokes, they got. Oh no, I was like, not Vegas, right?
no, but
What
they
week
are
am I
coming up. I think on the
looking
horizon within the next 2 weeks.
at? Yeah.
We got another. I know we come back home.
Edmonton, there's the other one, man. They never play well up there.
Yeah, always, never. So that'll wrap us up on this episode of Puck Talk CS. If you like Matt's swag glasses, follow along at Puck Talk CS on all of our socials, the Instagram, the YouTube, all for great content we got coming up. Season's just getting started. Rangers might not be cooking, but we'll be cooking it up, breaking it down for you all season long. Always remember, it's just the luck of the puck.